Welcome to the Seraphine podcast. I am Seraphine Arocha, and today I am with a dear close friend of my husband's. He is somebody who I've wanted to kind of dig in from the very moment I met him because he's an interesting fellow, and he also serves the fine city of Kansas City. This is Sammy Valeri. He's a Kansas City fire captain, Pumper Station 29. You are serving.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I normally don't have my phone out, but I had to do it today because there's always a little bit of nerves with people that I feel like, kind of like Dr. Auburn, where I have a lot of respect for what they do. It's not like I don't have respect for every single guest, but I like to get things right. So today, as we start out, this cracks me up because you and I met each other, and I'll be honest with you, I think the first few times I heard about what you did, I was like, what? Okay, yeah, firefighter, whatever. And then the more I got to know you, the more I realized, like,
I'm trying to think, was that like maybe 12 years ago?
About 12 years ago. So I just want to start out by saying that I wanted to have you on, and especially during this time, because it's coming towards Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I feel like this year has been a year that anyone who is of service to our community, I think it's pretty important to say thank you. So thank you, because I know it's been a tough year. Not that it isn't tough day by day, but this has been a tough year.
It's been a while, and I think it's probably still going to stay this way for a little while. So we probably got, hopefully not till summer, but I guess there's going to be a lot of changes coming up, so we'll see what's going to happen. But,
yeah. So. Well, it's been a funny time because I feel like you have got this larger than life personality, and you're always got a sense of humor. You've got a heart of gold. People gravitate to you like you are a tractor beam. I mean, I
take that. Thank you.
Everyone adores you. The thing that's so crazy is that I feel like with what you do for a living, that it would take a lot of energy to do what you do day in, day out.
It does. I think if anybody out there knows Fireman, Giovanna grew up with them. So, I mean, I think a lot of us are wired a little different. I think it's kind of just the way that our mentality is and our mindset. But, I mean, it takes energy. It takes, the 24-hour shifts. A lot of people aren't used to that. So that kind of took a while in the beginning. I'm going on 21, or actually I just got my 21 years. But it took a while to adjust for 24-hour shifts. And then a lot of guys work on their days off as well. Some don't. Some go home and take care of the kids, which is just as much work, So getting used to the 24-hour shifts, being up at night, and just kind of, I guess, sleep deprivation, you could say a little bit, So you got to be able to find your balance and know when to get caught up and when to power through and kind of regulate it, I guess. So.
And just like Giovanna's family, you come from a family of firefighters, correct?
I do. There's, I think I still have maybe like 7 or 8 cousins maybe on right now.
Wow.
So we have a pretty large family. My father retired about 8 years ago. He had 36 and a half years on, and old school hard-nosed Italian, that generation was different. Work, so then for that, or them guys, it's very common for them to do like 30 or 40 years on the fire department. I say that, but I don't see myself doing that. That's just not something that I see myself doing. For me to do another, 14 more years or whatever it may be, that's insane to even think that. But new day, we'll see what happens. I guess cross that bridge whenever we get there. But I mean, I'm looking at retirement in 4 years. Yeah. But I mean, I'll be 44 years old, so I'll still be pretty young and healthy. So
when you retire as a firefighter, I mean, you don't strike me as a guy who's just gonna kick back at the house with Gianna and his daughter.
Yeah, no.
I don't think that's what do you think?
Ideally, whenever people face retirement, and I had this conversation with my father, you kind of want to have a plan, whether a lot of people don't have the option, the option to retire at the age of 44. I got on at 19. Yeah. So I'm blessed. And I don't think that I will retire at 44. We'll see. But, just have a plan. So whether you want to travel with your family, or if you, some firemen will retire and go work on a golf course and they'll play free golf. And they'll just kind of, and some have left. There's chiefs that have left, which is really brilliant and smart. They've left and went to another fire department because they leave and they get their fire department pension here, and they'll go and work as a chief or somewhere else for another fire department, work a handful of years, and then they'll get another pension. So that's pretty smart to do. But yeah, I don't see myself just retiring and not doing anything. That's not in my DNA. So
you are like the Energizer Bunny. I have to say, I've been one of those people that through my life, I've always found myself to be a highly energetic person. I am like, I wake up early in the morning. I go, 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 go. As I'm getting older, I'm realizing like I can't keep up. And then every time my husband looks at me and he goes, come on. He's like, give me a break. He's like, me and Sammy are out.
I just had this conversation with him yesterday. I just had this conversation because we were having something. I'm like, you run like a cheetah, man. Like he is nonstop. And I think we're both kind of wired the same way. And I think that's probably why we get along and kind of,
I love it
about certain things.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about growing up as a kid, because, when you're out of the womb, it isn't like right away, like I'm going to be a fireman, but I'm sure that with a father, that might have been something to where it was like, he's kind of this larger than life human being. So maybe you did know right off the bat.
Yeah. So there's actually a picture that I have at my house. So 7th grade, I grew up in Independence. I went to Bridger Junior High School. We had career day. Mm-hmm. So I made him bring his fire gear home. So he worked at, a station off like 21st and Hardesty, like right off I-70 in Van Brunt. It's like still to this day, like one of the busiest stations in the city. And so I remember him bringing like his fire gear home, and it was all like smoked up. He had like the old leather helmet that was like burnt up, and I wore his gear to school for 7th grade career day. So, I mean, that was kind of like part of the plan, I guess. I kind of, as a kid, every kid, I mean, for the most part, is infatuated with helicopters and fire trucks. You see a fire truck down the street, every little kid's like pointing at them. So I was always infatuated with them. But like I really, like at junior high school, like I really did know that like I wanted to be a career firefighter. So I had him bring his fire gear home and took a picture at the bottom of my parents' porch, like looking up. And then whenever I graduated the fire academy in 1999, I had my own fire gear. I took the same picture looking up. So I have them side by side. So it's kind of cool.
Love that.
So.
That is super cool. So what changed in your view as a young boy? What did you see firefighters as, like in your brain? If you could give me just a couple sentences.
I mean, I think that you have to like helping people. I mean, I think you kind of have to have a special place in your heart because you see a lot of bad stuff, and you see a lot of different people. You see a lot of different walks of life. And you're just there to do a job, and I don't really, I mean, as a kid, like I kind of would like maybe look at it like as heroic a little bit, but it was more just like a cool job. You're helping people, the camaraderie. I'm a man's man. So I'm sure So
was it a lot? Do you think?
So I would see that as a young man, as a kid, and then the events and like we would have like picnics, and like my parents, so we had a swimming pool growing up, so they would always have their friends over and their kids, and we just would always be running around. It was just like one big happy family, and it's still like that to this day.
Was there ever an expectation? Like, was your dad like, son?
No, I mean, I think it was like a goal of mine, and like I know that like he like had pushed it, because like whenever I got out of high school, all my friends were going away to college. Well, I went to school for a year, but I didn't go away, but I would go away and hang out and party with them and, run around a little bit. And he would like be on my ass, like white on rice to tell me like, don't get in trouble. Like, don't mess this up. Like, cause I was planning on starting the fire academy if I was able to actually get hired and pass, which I was fortunate and I did. I got hired my first time, but, he was like, you can't have any, you can't get arrested. You can't have, no felonies, no charges, no nothing. Yeah. So he's like, keep your nose clean. So he was on me. Then after I got my letter and I got on, and then I went to the fire academy and got out of my, I think it was a 6-month probation window after the academy. After that, he was like at ease. I could tell, because he's like, hey, you're on your own. You're a grown-ass man now. Like, you're good. Thank you.
That's crazy. So I've always wanted to know, what's the training? Like, what do you have to do to become a firefighter?
So you have to, so now they're like, because a lot more is like EMS based, and like EMS would be like emergency medical,
like first response.
Yeah. So, but they're hiring paramedics now. Like they hired a bunch of paramedics from Omaha. There was like a wave of people that came down from Omaha, and they applied and got on the fire department.
Okay.
Because I met several new medics and like, oh yeah, I'm like, oh, you guys are part of that Omaha group because they were really, really, really pushing and hiring paramedics because we switched from, we have paramedics on our pumpers now. So a pumper would be the same thing as like an engine. So on the West Coast, they may call them engines. Pumper and engines carry the water, and we run like a lot of the EMS calls. So they have ALS, which is advanced life support. So we have paramedics on our pumpers. So so we hired more medics and staffed them. So
wow, that's like, I would think it would be. I mean,
so I'm not a medic.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
And it's a lot. Paramedics are smart. Like they're
I would
sharp.
think you'd get more brainiacs. I mean, like you're a big man. Like if I was in a burning building, I don't know if I would want. I mean,
so
are they trained to go up
so
after
they're
me
cross
too?
trained.
Yeah.
So they're fire and they're the we call them the docs or the doctors. The brains. So
yeah.
But I'm an EMT, and I didn't really have any desire to do any paramedic stuff. And like, you got to push drugs, and it's a lot of training, and they're sharp. Like we got paramedics that run some really, really, really real calls, like bad calls, and we're working with, obviously research, St. Luke's and level 1 trauma centers in Kansas City that run. They get everything, a lot of shootings, obviously with the homicide record.
Right,
I think it's
sky high.
Sky high.
I think it's like almost at its highest.
And we still got 30 plus more days, right?
Yeah.
Before, so I mean, we pretty much run. There's several shootings a night or a day in Kansas City. There's quite a bit of crime, and I think that. I don't know. I mean, it could be because people are like locked up and like
up, right?
they have
totally.
So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So
when you were 19, right? When you started, so the physical training. What I mean, like,
okay, so yeah, so the
the
training is so whenever I came on, so you have to be you do your EMT, you do like your hazmat, your fire 1 and 2, and then the physical training we have like a physical agility. So then. It was like you'd have to run the tower so many times. You'd have to walk on a balance beam. You'd have to pull like a hose roll up like 7 floors, and that was more like the old school way. And now it's like everything's official, like through like you have to do like a stairmaster. You have to drag a dummy. They have like an actual full like training that you have to pass. It's like the same for everybody. So it's changed from like, the old school balance beam. You have to run like the old tower. Now it's like set up inside like our training academy.
Wow.
And
do you do it every year? Do you have to like
I don't have, no, we do not. Once you're they probably should because there's some people that probably should maybe recertify. But,
one too many beers afterwards, Jesus, that fire.
But yeah, there's the training is hard and it's called a physical agility. So the training's tough and it kind of basically, and they don't want you to fail. They're not going to they will prep you and train you because they want you to pass. So, I mean, they'll give you time, or if you are not in shape, or if you are, maybe 120 pounds, male or female. I mean, there's females that have passed it. There's females that have not. Same thing with men, So they'll like prep you, like, hey, you can come in here and train, or you need to do the Stairmaster like 12 minutes. So to start because you have a pack on, a weight, so they will help you, to pass.
It so blows my mind because for me, my whole childhood was grown up with the Baldwin, like that's the icon I have is Billy Baldwin or the Baldwin brothers
from Bull or
from Backdraft.
Backdraft, yeah.
And honestly,
I think his nickname was Bull. One of them was Bull.
Like the Irish kind of like Kurt Russell, like that. Those are like the good old boys that are like but they're constantly.
So it's funny because Kara would always joke and be like, I swear like every Italian is a firefighter, because I'm like, well, there's not. You just happen to know a lot, but
what do you think it is about that stereotype of Italians and Irishmen?
I don't know. Maybe work ethic. Yeah. Maybe it could be the way we were raised, and I think maybe a little bit of a pride. I mean, I think there's a large amount of everything, but I mean, there were in the 70s, in the 80s. I think my father came out, I think, in 76. But so how long? I'm trying to think. When did John have came on? What year?
He was 13 years in when he passed.
So that was, how many years has it been? Five. All right. So, yeah. So
39. So he was 26.
So I just think that it was a really cool job with really good benefits, and it still allowed people to do whatever they wanted on their days off. Well, like if they work
But
in
it
other
also
jobs,
comes, I think, from like I hate to say it, but stereotypically, Italians and Irish men,
they were
they are men,
workhorses.
and for you to go into a burning building, I don't see a lot of.
I think that could be part of the reason why. I mean, FDNY, Boston, like obviously the Chicago thing, you know, the movie. So.
And again, think about immigrants, you know, family lineage. Like I'm going to protect my city. Like I feel it. I feel it, and I felt it a lot in Chicago when I was there. I feel like. You know, in terms of departments, you know, I always think of like Chicago when I think of Boston. Now here's my question, because again, I think about when I was a kid and how I framed up a fireman, and now I'm good friends with a fireman. Mm-hmm. How much has changed? And I can only imagine how much has changed in your viewpoint of entering the academy at 19 to now.
It's crazy.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can. So definitely new day. There's been so many changes and different things that's gone on with, PTSD, male, female, you know, they've changed policies, they've changed a lot of different things. And it's for the better, you know, it's good. It's just the old school mentality and the things that they used to do and just the way that they operated, even I think a lot of work, all different types of work, even police too, but it's more structured. It's definitely more of a business, and you just can't get away with the stuff that you used to do. You know, I mean, same thing with police. Obviously, there's cameras everywhere. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. So, just have to, and also, like, you know, just a few minutes back, we were talking about like the work ethic or the way that, you know, we're wired. I mean, I'm still young, but millennials, it's crazy having millennials that are coming on the job that some have never really probably even turned a screwdriver, or like even dug a hole with a shovel, you know. So like they're coming in and doing like this. It's hard work. I mean, you know, in the winter you're going to be cold, you're wet, and you know your hands, like the dexterity in your hands, like, you know, we don't really have like gloves that just you know. So like you get like cold, you know, and in the summer it's hot, like, and you're fighting fires, or you're working, and you know you're running, depending on where you work, you know, 15, 16, 20 calls a day, whatever. And I mean, it's exhausting, you know. So the millennials, I think, aren't as prepped or prepared for what the job is really about. Or like,
what would your advice be for, like, let's say, because Aaron, I was asking my team the other day, because we put a list of questions together, and I asked Johnny and I asked a few people that I was like, all right, I'm gonna interview one of my husband's best friends, and one of Aaron's questions was, you know, for someone my age who would be interested. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
To go into the fire department, like
I say
what
yes,
would you say? What's
100%.
your advice?
I mean,
what's your advice?
I love it. I think I have no regrets. It's an awesome job.
How do they prepare? Or what do they need to be prepared
so the training
for?
academy. So we got some guys that are down there that are instructors, and these are guys that have been around. You know, they've worked in Midtown. They've worked around some of the best, you know, firemen, and that basically have been on the last 30 years. Because some of these guys are older. They've been around, so they've seen it all. So whenever you have guys like that can that you can mentor, that will help you, or that will train you, or that will give you honest, good advice, I think that is important, because they're going to be straight up with you. They're going to tell you like, hey, it is what it is. You know, if you got some younger guys that don't really know as much, then it's one thing. But these guys are like, they're good. They're very good. You know, that's why they're down at the training academy. So they'll train you like the bookwork stuff, but they're also just like, table talk goes a long way. It's just sitting there having a conversation just about whatever the job may be, or the things you may see, or the things you may experience, or, you know, the sleep deprivation part, or like the things that you're not going to, you know, working on holidays. You know, you're going to miss birthdays. There's going to be Christmas Eve, you're not going to be with your family, you know, because what you are with your second family, you know, because that is your second family. You eat, sleep, and whatever else with them, you know, so you know a lot of stuff about each other. So I would tell them that and everything has gone more EMS now. So that's going back to like they're really, really big on paramedics. So if someone was serious and they enjoy helping people, and they have a desire to do some sort of like emergency, like healthcare, like nursing or whatever, if that, and they're interested in it, and they don't mind doing that, then I say, yes, this is a good job for you. If you don't really have an interest in that, and you just want to do the fires, I mean, we don't really fight fires. Like, I mean, we had a really good fire yesterday, but it's not like we're fighting fires every day. I mean, there's some stations that are really busy, and I work in 63rd and Paseo, so we're really busy, but you're running, I mean, maybe 80% EMS, it's a young man's job, and we had 3 COVID patients that we ran yesterday, and I just got off of COVID. So technically, I think according to the CDC, I'm okay, and I can be around COVID patients, still within 95 and have my PPE on, but I'm not as freaked out as what I was, whenever it all started. But I think if you enjoy helping people and you like it and you're prepared and you know that you're going to be running a lot of EMS calls, you're going to be on an ambulance, because you're going to go back and forth between an ambulance and a fire truck. Whenever you're on the fire truck, you still run EMS, but you still run your car wrecks. You run your house fires. If you're on an ambulance, you do only EMS, and you're going to the hospital and you're transporting patients.
Wow.
So and it's not a good time to be in the hospital.
No.
But someone has to do that. That's our job, their job. So we're going, picking them up, and we take them to the hospital, and then they come back, and then they'll back in, and the bells ring. They get another call, and they go back out.
Yeah.
And they're just in and out all day. So the ambulances are busier than the fire trucks because they run more EMS calls, because we have more EMS calls than fires or car wrecks.
That totally makes sense to me.
A lot of people don't really understand that.
No,
because we're together, but we're also separate.
Yeah.
So that would be the cross-trained paramedics. So we have a 24-hour shift. They may do 12 hours on the ambulance, and then the back half, the second half, they'll be on the fire truck. So they'll rotate. So if you're prepared and you know that that's what you want to do, then I say yes. But if you don't really want to be on an ambulance and you don't really like EMS, then you probably need to go maybe find something else, because that's the majority.
I'm pivoting just a little bit, because again, I get to kind of pick your brain. I want to know because when I think about firemen, they're larger than life, and I imagine you as a little boy. I imagine you with your dad going out on calls. Do you ever recall when you were a little kid? Did you ever get worried? Did you ever have that? Did you ever see it with your family?
There was 2 times that stick out. Other than that, my dad was silent. He never showed any emotion, never said a word. He would. I remember him being tired and coming home and sleeping, but. And keep in mind, he worked at, like I said, Station 24, which is off, I think it's right 21st and Hardesty. So, like a working engine house. They ran everything, but he would never really say much. But I remember a couple calls. So I remember one time he didn't have to go to the hospital. He got caught in a flashover, a backdraft. He got burned. And I remember, I think it was Chief Tommy Walker at the time, was who had called my house, because anytime if a chief calls or they show up at your house, that's kind of not normally good, So I remember the chief had called, and my mom was like, and I could hear her, I could tell something was going on. I may have been maybe 8 or 9-ish, maybe or something. So I remember that was definitely something that just stands out the top of my head. And then whenever they had the explosion down off of, whenever the 6 guys died, they had this explosion off 87th, and whenever the trailer blew up full of ammonium nitrate, whoever it was, they had lit it, and then the firemen pulled up, and then the whole trailer blew up and just killed them all. So my dad was going in that morning, and he had a scanner, a radio, and it was underneath my bedroom. I was on the 2nd floor. Well, the scanner, I could hear in the middle of the night. It wasn't real loud, but I remember I could hear it, and after that explosion, I remember the scanner just tones, beep, 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 because it should have just hit the fan, So I remember thinking because we had a field, there was a baseball diamond in a field behind my parents' house. So I remember I heard that noise. I thought a plane had landed. So I remember I'm looking out the window, and I didn't see anything. So then I remember I went downstairs, and my dad was sitting on the end of the bed. He was going into work that morning. So we go into work at 6 a.m. I feel like that explosion may have been at 4:30 or 5 or something. So whatever it wasn't good. And I knew that he was going in, so that was a concern. But I remember that scanner just going crazy. Beep calls, they were toning out alarms.
Did he ever, after either one of those calls, did he ever sit down with you and say, hey, so never had that talk? Do you ever wish that he had? No? No.
I was raised around it, so I was able to observe and kind of see and get my own perspective. And not that I had it all figured out, but I felt like it was pretty cut and dry what I was getting myself into. So I didn't really ask a question. And he would have gladly answered them.
Are you similar to your dad with your daughter Gianna?
Probably.
Has she ever been worried? Has she had that oh God, daddy?
I think so a little bit, But yeah, I don't really, at that age, which she's old enough now, but at that age, I don't think your mind's able to process it. You don't really understand, So I would just keep it business.
Yeah.
You know, I FaceTime her, talk to her at night, you know.
Yeah.
And then she would ask questions like she would want to see. And then she would come by. She loved it because she'd always hang out and act like a clown. And the guys would always give her ice cream and popsicles. And I would send her home with her mom while she'd fired up on sugar.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
So I want to go back. You had mentioned a backdraft. And again, going back to my childhood and my recollection of that movie. How often do backdrafts actually happen?
So they have like flashovers or backdraft. They actually had a flashover yesterday.
And what can you explain the difference?
So like backdraft would be like whenever the air like would be like sucking, like, yeah, and it's like pressured, and there's actually like an actual real definition that I can't really think of right off the top of my head. But like, so a flasher would be like whenever the smoke, like it gets hot, contents get hot, it burns, and like smoke will get hot enough, it like reaches like an ignition temperature point, and then it lights and flashes. So that's what had happened yesterday at 69th and South Benton. They had a real good fire. We were first on the scene, but it flashed, and the smoke that was in there that was coming from the back room out to the front door flashed, and it lit up, and it was hot. So
that's crazy. Because again, it's one of those things that I've always wondered, like how often it happens, and then
it's weird because they say that like every fire is different, you know. I mean, because you could just have a regular, contents fire, and you could go and you know, we're like, so the joke is like we say like moth to the light principle, like we are just like the moth to the light, but there's different variables, there could be, the windows could be boarded up, there could be the way that like yesterday and today the wind is howling. That's part of the reason why that house got cooking so bad, because the wind was coming, so it was wind driven. So I think on my phone, I was looking earlier, but there's already been 2, I think, working house fires today, but they've toned out like 6. I have an app on my phone that'll come off. Yesterday they had like a handful, and I think if something that normally wouldn't be as much, or if we were to get there fast enough, we could put it out and put a pretty good stop on it. But because of the wind is howling, I mean, I don't know if it's got to be 30 miles per hour. It's just fuels the fire.
It's amazing to me that just the oxygen, the push. It's crazy.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
So on a lighter side, right? I feel like when I think about firemen, they've got they seem like they have a great job, right? It's like this kind of superhero mentality. Then you've got, you have to be pretty physically fit to do it. So usually the people who are on the force are, at least physically good looking. So my question to you is that have you, like in terms of being a young, bag? I am.
Don't put me in a trick bag.
If you're in
please.
a young, young fireman, like, did you feel like, obviously life has changed. Did
like
you feel like,
ago?
Did you feel like, hell yeah.
Absolutely. I loved it. Yeah, it was cool. Hell yeah. But I wouldn't, there was actually an ongoing joke with anyone that's been out of town with me. People, it was like you'd like want to start a conversation. So what do you do? And I would literally tell people I worked for Deaf and Ball. I was a trash man. I would never ever say fireman, because I don't like when people play the fireman card.
Oh, totally, because all the stereotypes go with it.
And my friends would be like, here we go. And I'd be like, I found this bowling ball once. I bowled a perfect game. One man's junk is another man's treasure. They've heard this like 4 times. So it was an ongoing joke. They're like, oh, here comes the Deaf and Ball story, the trash man story. So, but some people do play the fireman card, and that's fine and great. But I wouldn't really typically do that. But yes, it was cool and rewarding, and I felt good. At the age of 19 or 20, I'm tiller, and I was driving, like the big hook and ladders. So I got assigned to Westport, the old Westport, which is a coffee shop now. So all my friends who were hanging out and partying in Westport, I'm tillering like the hook and ladder through the back driving, which is like the coolest job ever. Hell yeah, I felt cool. Like, it was awesome. Up?
I love it.
So it was fun.
Advice to people who love a fireman. If you were going to say these are the things like you have to be patient about. Like,
just go with it and just be patient and just understand that we see a lot of crazy shit and that everybody deals with it differently, and that I think that sometimes you just go with it. Just be patient.
What do you think is the hardest thing for you to convey to people who love you about your job?
To convey,
like, just to get across, so that, like, because it's hard. Again, to fully understand what you do. I have a romantic view of it. I do. I've got a romantic view of it. I think about it in terms of like, a knight in shining armor going and like he's going into the fire. And I think the hard part is there's so much
are
to
just
it.
special creatures, and we're just all kind of wired a little different. I mean,
and when you say wired different, what do you mean?
I just think that like the way that we, work shift syndrome, the way that we're gone, we're like in a fraternity for life. We're around a bunch of men, and you got your older guys, you got your younger guys. Well, once you get older, like, I mean, I've been on, like I said, 21, but I got guys that are working at my station that like are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years on. Well, they're shits. They're crazy. There's the shit they're doing. I remember like yesterday doing it. They're just wired different. You just see the stuff that they're doing, the activities, and just the way they act, and it's pretty entertaining because I'm like, man, that was us 15 years ago. Know. But
have you found as you've gotten older? Do you ever have? Because I mean, I'm sure there's got to be some. I mean, whether you're training or not, you've got to compose your emotions.
Yeah.
But as you get older,
100%,
do you feel like after you face something, do you get a little like, fuck, man, I could cry right now?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's
you're
always
like,
going to be, there's going to be some, the kids are always hard. If there's children, if there's kids, that's always tough.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just bad, sad things that you see, but I mean, I'm not saying I'm numb, but I just try to just, it's a job. Yeah, it's a job. Like I keep it separate. I mean, there may be times like in the back of my head where I'm like, damn, this is not good, or this is a tough one. It's a bad call.
Yeah.
You never forget them. I mean, there's definitely some bad ones that you just don't forget. Now the young guys who have not seen a lot and it's new to them. I mean, it definitely impacts them for sure, and we'll talk about it. We'll go back to the station. You got to talk about it. Just like if you keep it in, it will haunt you or it will affect you later on. If you talk about it like anything else, relationships or anything else that's on your mind, you got to get it out. So I'm there for them. They know that. I told them I got an open door policy. Anything they ever need, they can come in my office and we'll talk about it. But it's just some people, it's not now is more of a time than ever before where people openly talk about their stuff or their feelings or their pain. They never did that before.
What's the danger in that, you think?
This danger in what?
Of over processing or over talking.
I don't think there's danger in it. I just think that you got to remember the fire department's a paramilitary organization. Mm-hmm. So whenever I came on in 99, there were still guys on in the 70s that were in Vietnam, and there was like some hardcore bad that I worked around, and the new guys, they're working around guys that maybe like Desert Storm, or there's a lot of guys that run some real shit in Afghan, over there. So you got guys that are in the military that are trained but they still see the same stuff, as the fire department. You're seeing some traumatic stuff. So I just think that if you just process it, you balance it. If you need help, help's available. Talk to your peers, talk to your captain or even if you want to talk to your senior firefighter, like a senior firefighter has a role where they kind of overlook the rest of the firefighters. So if there's 3 or 4 firefighters assigned to a company, the senior firefighter is kind of, because, you go by rank. So it's not mandatory, but that's just kind of like the firefighters kind of got their own thing, and then it'll go up the ladder as needed. So to the driver, and then the captain would be myself. But I have no problem talking or helping them out with anything that they need. But sometimes they may not feel comfortable talking to the firefighter or the senior firefighter, so they would come to me, and I'm pretty easy and laid back, so I'll hear them out or talk to them, and I feel like I've been around long enough where I can give them some pretty good advice if they need it, So there's things that bothered me as a young firefighter that I remember, and I would come home and I'd talk to my father about it, or I'd talk to, my guys at work, and, there was a saying many, many years ago, which is not really that nice, but they would say, it was a shoebox saying, and they would say that you would, if you go into work, whatever problems you have, you put your feelings in the shoebox, you slide it into your bed. Yeah. Then whenever you leave, you take the shoebox with you. So
they would say, they do it in EMDR therapy that I'm in. They still use that. So how they use it is they use it with trauma. Yeah. So they say, like, whatever it is, they have you imagine like a garbage disposal bin or whatever, and you imagine that bin, and you put whatever those are, and you put it in the bin. So it hasn't gone away then. Interesting. And it's with you, but then it's like, then you take it out when you can process it, and then you put it back in the bin because it's trashy fucking feelings, Yeah. So it's so interesting. So it is the whole reason why I do this podcast, and the reason why I ask people on is because I I have a family heritage, and I love the stories, and a lot of times we forget that stories are important to pass on. And I like these little time capsules to just be like, all right, this is you today in 2020. And I guess my next question would be if you could share a story or a moment that you would want your daughter to know about you as a fireman. And it doesn't have to be a tragic one. It can be a great one. It could be a great save, or it could just be you sitting down with another fireman. But for her to press play on this YouTube or video and go, oh, that's my dad.
Yeah, there's actually she's in some videos. I forgot if it was 41 or Fox. They came down to interview, and it was a day in a life of a firefighter, and they had pictures of her on there, and she's on there. So she didn't. I think I showed her this was maybe like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I showed her a few years back, and she didn't really remember. She was like,
yeah.
I'm like, do you remember doing that? She was like, no. So it was like an interview they did, but I mean, I don't know really what I would show her or tell her. I mean, I think she kind of, she gets it. She knows that, her dad's a fireman. She thinks it's cool. I mean, I think it's cool.
Why do you do it? Why you could leave tomorrow.
Well,
why do you keep being a fireman? You're like, I can't.
I get my monies.
Yeah.
So I got to wait till I get 25 on. No, I do it because I like the job. I like the camaraderie. It's rewarding. It's a job. I signed up for it, and I don't really leave anything incomplete. Like with anything that I start or that I do, I finish. So I'll finish and do my time and leave, and whenever that time gets there, I'll cross that bridge and we'll figure out the next journey. So
if you could, I don't know, I don't even know how to ask the question. I guess it's more about this last year. I've seen a lot of people come down pretty hard on policemen, first responders. If you could, I don't know, give any advice to people who are tough on you guys, what would you say to them?
I mean, this is probably another whole hour and a half of conversation we can have, but I mean, there's good cops and there's bad cops. There's there's been good firemen and bad firemen.
Yeah.
Police have a job to do. I mean, they've taken a beating. It's a hard time to be a police officer. I couldn't do it. That's just me. I chose to be a fireman.
Yeah.
The police, God bless them. Thank you for what they do.
Yeah.
But I mean, the problem is there's been a few bad guys that have really ruined it and affected the police force nationwide. I mean, worldwide, so you got these guys that genuinely care. There's some really cool, I mean, I'd be the first one to say if he's a jack off or not. There's some really cool cops out there. I mean, I work with them on a professional level, daily, weekly. And hey, man, it's good to know some cops. It's nice to know. And I see them, and I run around. Occasionally on my days off in the Brookside or Waldo area, which is where I work. So it's nice to know them. They're there. It's a job, and they take a beating. I mean, whenever people see firemen, they're normally pretty happy and cool. They're pretty easy on us. They see cops, it's not really quite the same.
Yeah.
And that sucks because they're not all complete shitheads, and it's a really tough time, but I think they deserve a chance. I think that they need to lighten up a little bit and let them do their job. And we need police. We need safety. We need public safety. We need them because there's a lot of fucked up shit going on out there, and they will help us. I mean, I think that their mission is to not completely just be bullies and destroy and hurt everyone. I mean, I think they really genuinely do want to help. There's just been some bad people out there that have really put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So
now, in terms of your station, could you tell me, and I'm also bringing up a few questions because I don't want to miss any of the questions they asked you, but in your station, do you have any good moments like that come to mind right off the top of your head where you're like, again, I hate saying the word proud because you don't want to be like, I'm the prideful firefighter, but in the next breath, have like anything that's come to mind recently?
There's been some times that like we've had some crazy extrication calls on 71 highway. We pulled some people out of cars.
Yeah.
We've save some people's lives, whether you do CPR, you shock them, or you bring them back.
What's the most athletic or terrifying thing you've done yourself?
I mean, we could go. There's
Like,
a lot of,
I mean, is there
we had
anything
a
that you're like,
fire.
holy
I was
shit?
Scaling a ladder
Yeah.
yesterday at 63rd and Bushman.
Yeah.
Somebody lit these massive, the big storage containers.
Yeah.
So we had a ladder from one side to the other. So I was like a cat scaling that with like a hand line and air pack on, trying to shoot water down. And my chief's like, "You got it?" I'm like, "I'm good." He's like, "I don't really know if I feel comfortable up you scaling a 16-foot ladder from one storage container to the other." I mean, and that was, I didn't really, it was just, we just did it. We had to put water in the storage container, and we were below. We weren't able to get it, so we needed to go and throw water down. So we did that. You climb, you're like Spider-Man. You got to climb roofs and cut holes in roofs. You throw ladders.
Do you have a really good assist from another guy?
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, but I feel like I could always say that I've been a pretty good assist. I've done my part, but there's not, everyone's there to help, and they do what they can.
Scariest moment for you?
Couple.
Yeah.
One was whenever I worked off of Independence Avenue, Station 23. I was a firefighter, I think maybe 9-year, 10-year, no, probably about 11-year firefighter. And we had a very similar fire to the fire that Mesh and Leggio died in.
Yeah.
And it was on Independence Avenue.
Yeah.
And we were first pumper on the scene, and it was a 2-story going up, so on Independence Avenue. So at the time, there was just a little bit of smoke, maybe like 5 inches, like banked down, so you could see in there. So, but once you went down, you went up the stairs, it was smoky, but it wasn't that charge.
Yeah.
Well, within like a couple minutes, it was heavy black smoke that was rolling out. So my captain, who was really aggressive, and he's a great fireman, Dan at the time, he's like, "Let's go." So behind him, we pull a hand line up, and we're up, and we make a round like to the right, and you could just see back. So it was like bowstring construction. It was just on whoop ass, like a glass orange juice, just rolling. Wow. So we didn't have enough water. I mean, we couldn't even put it out. So if something gets engulfed or if something's really bad, like we could see it from the inside, but it was getting hot. It was burning richer. Black smoke at the time was banked, rolling all the way down to Independence Avenue.
Wow.
So, so we were throwing water, and they were hitting air horns from the outside. Well, that means that it's bad, time to go. So you got to evacuate. So he's like, "Hey, we got to go. So we left, and so the hand line is like an umbilical cord. That's what we like call. So if it's hot and if it's dark, you stay on the hand line. You don't let go of it, because if you get disoriented, that's your way in and out. So he had got off the hand line, because whenever we were backing out, we crawled out backwards. So he had got off the hand line, got a little disoriented. I stayed on the hand line, but it went from like 0 to 100 real quick. And by the time that we got down the stairs, we were like bailing out. Like his helmet flew off, mine did, and the conditions changed. And plus he had got off the hand line, so we got a little disoriented, but we ended up pulling together and then backing out, and it was fine. But that was a pretty hairy little moment. I remember that because it got hot, and that's just how fast the conditions can change.
Like how long was that? Like if you could, I bet it felt like forever.
It did. We were probably in there for maybe by the time we pulled up and start maybe 15 minutes, maybe. But I mean, it felt like forever.
Like the ability to stay within heat.
Well, I mean, so normally the first thing that will burn are your ears. So because you have a helmet that goes down, then your face piece goes over. You have a Nomax hood, which those who don't know, Nomax is like what race car drivers wear. Like it kind of helps you from burning. So you wear a hood that is like sealed over your face piece, where your ears kind of stick out a little bit. So you also have ear flaps. Yeah. So your wrist normally, because even though you slide your hand through these like little wrist covers, if you move, like the wrist will burn and your ears will burn. So if your ears and your wrists are burning, normally like it's hot. Like so use that as a gauge, and you keep your ass on the floor and you're crawling to get out. So that means time to go. So
it's so fascinating to me, because again, I think about I mean, for me, like I go into whole other spectrum, ice plunges, and I can now go for about 8 minutes, and I'm like, it's an ice plunge. Like it's like we're talking like ice cold. But I think about obviously fire.
Like ice bath?
Ice bath.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're great
I
for
love
you.
ice. I
Yeah.
love them. But I mean, I think of like hot and cold, our ability to take it. And then I also think about even if the ears and the wrists aren't going, but just all
But
that
think about the
gear.
first time that you
Yeah.
did it as to how
Oh, I
many
know,
times.
right?
Now you're like, wow. So
Yeah.
the first time you're like, there's no way I could do this for however many minutes. And then you get used to it. You're trained, your body, your mind, because the mind's a powerful thing. So once
Yeah.
you get used to it, you know, like, oh, I got this. I can do this for another 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I've already done this before.
Yeah.
Same thing with the heat. You know, like if you're physically burning, like you know it, but you're like, oh, it's not that bad. You'll kind of like do one of these, like, yeah, I'm good. You know.
Yeah. It's
So-
crazy. And again, the brain. I mean, the brain and the power of what we have. Now, here's a question I have. Do you have any superstitions or rituals before you go into a fire?
I'm very superstitious, actually.
Yeah.
So, So there's a saying that black crows or birds in the fire stations when we're bad luck.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that before. Yeah.
And just there's certain things that you don't do or that you don't say because it's just a no-no.
Oh, no, I get it.
And like,
Yeah.
and people know it.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, we don't talk about
It's so
that.
interesting because I loved the movie The Crow.
Yeah.
Back with Brandon Lee.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But I
Yeah.
always get that. Ugh.
Yeah.
But I do know that very well. All right. So, what was the hardest part of adapting to COVID-19 as a department?
So when did COVID hit?
God,
What-
technically
what month?
January, but it was like March, April.
January. So I was off
Yeah.
from my shoulder injury, remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
So eventually, we would have modified duty. So you go into the station and you would do your whatever. Well, whenever COVID hit, they're like, hey, keep your asses at home. We don't even want you here. Like, this is not worth it. Like,
Yeah.
so everyone's like, okay. So I'm off, injured, recovering from my shoulder injury. And at the meantime, they're coming out with like new protocols and these like rules and all this crazy COVID stuff. Well, I knew about COVID. I knew the severity of it, but I had not been at the fire station. I had not been to work.
Yeah.
So I come back as a supervisor, as a captain, and I'm like prime time, like maybe 2.5 months into COVID. They're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we got to wear full gowns. Like any COVID call, like, you know, you got to be masked up. You got to do this, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like it was really weird. So to adjust and adapt to that. And then also everyone was so sketched out because like they did know the severity, they didn't. There were still so many unanswered questions, you know. So it was real weird for me because coming back in primetime COVID from being off to like I got thrown right in a hornet's nest. But my guys I work with are awesome. Like they kept me up to speed, up to par, and our EMS division's really good. So any questions that we had, you know, I had that they would answer. But it was really new and weird, and everybody. I mean, now like I said, we had 3 COVID calls we ran yesterday. I mentioned that earlier, and it was like, yeah, okay, you know. But I mean, before you're like, oh my God, he's got COVID.
Yeah.
Now you're like, okay, well, no big deal. Like it's not.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's not.
How was it for you? Because I mean,
Me having COVID myself,
Yeah. How
like
was
just
it?
recently.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so.
Was it heinous or would you?
So the first 4 days, everyone's had different symptoms, side effects.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. I felt like I'd been hit like with baseball bats from like my rib cages down.
Yeah.
So like my quads, my calves, my bones. My ass was sore. I was just achy. But it was like I had like a massive, like crazy killer leg workout, but didn't do anything. So, and then at night,
sense of smell and
I
taste.
so
back
at
up?
night I had fevers, sweating like through the sheets,
Oh wow.
and I had no congestion, no cough, no headaches, and then like, so this was like for 4 days. Like it was like, so and I was drinking like turmeric green tea like 3 times a day, and in between that I was taking like emergency vitamin packs. I was taking like B12 shots, elderberry, like vitamin C, like taking all my vitamins. Like I was and I think that stuff helped, but it didn't really get me as bad as it had got other people. And like after day 4 or 5 it just went away. But like day 3 I remember I was showering, and if anyone doesn't use Old Spice body wash, and I mean this stuff smells good, so I was just Old Spice and I couldn't smell it.
Oh my
and I'm
God.
like, what? This is weird. So I got cologne. I'm like, well, let me just see. And I sprayed on my wrist, and I couldn't smell that. I'm like, oh shit, I think I lost my smell. So, and then I realized I think I lost my taste. It was just really weird because you don't know what it's like to not smell or taste. And I know I was physically hungry, and I was eating, but like you couldn't taste it. And that was like a couple days, a day and a half. It went away. That was really
That's
weird.
so crazy. There's a movie, I forget the name of it, but it is about an apocalypse, and it's about a virus that comes over the world, and it starts out with people lose their sense
weird.
of taste. Then it's they lose their sense of smell. Then it's their sense of hearing. I think sight is, and then the final one that goes, and in the movie you're like, no, is your sense of touch, and like the world goes black, and you're like,
good.
no.
Yeah, we don't
So
do that.
yeah, it is. It's pretty melodramatic. But after I saw it, I was like,
I don't
oh
think
my
I would have
God.
like really. You don't really realize it. You know, like my house, I have like Scentsys burning. Like my house always smells good. But then I mean, thinking back now, I guess I really just didn't smell it. But like
Yeah.
whenever I'd showered, and like I said, I did the cologne. That's whenever I knew, like, oh my God, this is really weird. You know,
worse.
yeah.
It's so crazy.
So and like whenever, even though you need to shower, obviously, especially if you're having fevers at night, but whenever you're that sick, sometimes you don't
Yeah.
really want to, shower. Like it just was a horrible time. So I thank God I was 5 or 6. I was good. Like I painted my inside of my house. I was
Yeah.
still off work, because
Yeah.
you have to do a mandatory
Yeah.
minimum 10 days quarantine, and then you have to come back and test negative
I
to
love
get
how
back to
productive
work.
you are in your
Yeah.
house. I mean, when
Always
I
doing
remember
something,
during
yeah.
COVID, I came over to visit with Johnny.
The rest of the paint's gonna be
and
done
you were
this weekend. I'm gonna have a Christmas party. So
I love it.
You guys all
You are
know.
a productive
We'll kick it up.
mother ever.
Yeah.
So this is just for me, but it's like a basic bitch question, like the top couple things I can do to avoid a fire.
Smoke alarms.
Well, yeah,
Smoke
obviously
alarms
that,
are
but like,
first.
what
That's
are
what I'm
what is
saying.
like
That's
the
the right
things that are
answer.
like, come on, ass. Like,
So people burn, like they leave their, they'll leave their stoves on.
Yeah.
Or their ovens, and like they'll open the door.
yeah,
I mean, we ran a fire, man, I remember like 12 years ago, probably 14 years ago. I was working whenever I worked in Swope Park, which I guess I work there now, but I was at Station 35. And the curtains had caught on fire next to the stove. And I mean, the house it was a total loss, but she had a couple pit bulls in there. And then we actually found
yeah.
the dogs and brought them out, but I don't know. I don't think they made it, but it was just, it's sad because people have to do what they have to do to survive. This was in the dead
Yeah.
of winter. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you got your, and you can't have extension cords with heaters
Yeah.
everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just, but you gotta do what you gotta do to survive.
But
and
I
people
always
do
think
that.
about-
So like not having a lot
Yeah.
of extension cords plugged in, like kind of like what we have.
Yeah, right here. You're like fire hazard
yeah,
studio.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it's against code, but
Yeah.
but yeah, the smoke alarms, bundles of cords, wires. You don't want to have a bunch of stuff blocking exit ways,
No,
which you don't have here. But I mean,
honestly-
like businesses do sometimes.
Yeah.
Like exits, you can't have a bunch of boxes and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
People they just neglect
Load them
it.
up.
Yeah.
What about,
so-
I have this, I'm the crazy person every single time with the curling iron. How often with curling irons and
Candles and curling irons
Candles and
are-
curling, are they are they like numero
They're
uno?
up there.
Okay.
Yeah, they're up there.
Okay.
I mean,
Oh,
but
God. Okay.
I mean, if it's just a curling iron or flat iron or chi or whatever you guys
Yeah.
call it, if it's
The
just sitting
chi.
there, yeah,
I
just sitting
love
there, that's not really that bad.
Have you ever
But
used a chi?
No, but Tony Mike used
I love
to use
that.
one whenever they were
Yep.
like Jersey Shore, and they used to
Yep.
straighten his hair. My
I
cousin
love
Tony
it.
Mike Cardello.
I love it.
And I didn't know what it was, and he had told me. He goes, "This is the chi." I go, "What the hell's a chi?" He goes, "Is it a flat iron? Is that right?" So
Oh my
I'm like,
God, I
yeah,
love
they
it.
would straighten the hair and do whatever. I'm like, yeah, I never had to do that. I've kind of always had the long little craziness going on, but yeah, so the curling iron, flat iron, cheese, whatever could be dangerous, especially if they're around towels or something. They burn. Candles at night, people leave them burning, and just if it's on a nightstand and like a pillow
Yep.
falls, it gets knocked over.
Yeah, that is.
You just don't want
yeah.
to leave candles
No.
burning at night. I mean, people,
Yeah.
you blow the candles out at night,
Yeah, yeah.
before you go to sleep.
Well,
So-
I love that. That's like my one of my last questions. I'm like, I have to. The final question I have to ask you, because you are a man with many friends, but I'm going to ask you, if you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, who would they be? Where would you eat? What would you eat? And where? And I say where any place in the world, and what would the food be? So 3 people, dead or alive. Where are you at in the world, and what are you eating?
All right. First, I think you're probably going to know who the first one is. I got to go with my boy, Matthew Mcconaughey.
Yes,
So,
yes. Do you love that book?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
it's
good.
You know, he has some really cool, his one, he just has a way to, just his delivery to kind of grasp the things that he's, for me, I mean,
Yeah.
he just, what
I
he
love his
says
stories
is
about
really
his
super
dad
cool.
and his brother,
and then
the
whenever-
ass whooping, where
yeah,
he
right.
like his older brother.
I would
his,
let him, like, I would go just like want to sit down and drink like whiskey and bourbon
Yes.
with him, and whatever else happened, I would just let it kind of organically happen because he's so cool and just
he's
just
smart and he's
such
like an old sage.
He is. He's old school, like just a good old boy. Grew up in Texas, but he's very brilliant and smart and just you could tell by his grammar and the words, just the way. I mean, you could tell he's very educated.
But he's
and
also a little
which I
the naked bongo man.
Yeah. So I would put him up there. I've always been a really big fan. I don't know if Vince Vaughn would be. I think Vince Vaughn is hilarious.
I think he'd be hella good.
Just to go and just maybe have some martinis with him and go to like a steakhouse.
Yeah.
And then maybe go old school and maybe do I gotta go with probably Al Pacino just to sit and just even he's so old school and cool and he's just like one of the originals, you know.
Totally.
But like go in a private steakhouse room and drink some good wine and just pick his brain and because I mean I think that he's like probably like the Don, like the coolest out of all of them, you know, and he's obviously very talented as well. But I mean, there's many others, but I would say probably Mcconaughey. I would say, you know, Pacino. I mean, there's so many. Yeah.
So so my last two questions are on the fun side. The one I ask is, what is the music, any music at all, that you put on your headphones if you're going to a fire, and what is the music that you use to unwind?
Well, we don't listen to music going to fires. We listen.
You don't even in the station, like before a fire, like do you have music ever
we
playing?
Don't know. Well, I mean, like we'll have like
background
We'll
stuff?
have like maybe a radio playing like, I mean, whatever it's on 98.9. We actually have a radio in our fire truck, and we'll listen to like. But I mean, if we're going to fire, like all that shit's off.
None of that.
No, because I got to be listening to the radio. I got to be thinking about a size up, what's going to be happening. I got to listen to dispatch.
Yeah, it's not like a football game.
But you know,
getting revved up.
Right? You're like punching yourself in the face with some Metallica one. You know, so
again, that's my backdraft, like sad, like
you know, at night, especially like it just depends. If there's a lot of stuff on my mind there, because we have this dispatch, these tones that just all day. They just tone, and it's just more so. I think it maybe because I don't know if I'm getting older, but I'm just like shit full of them. It's annoying. Like you just have these tones. So I played in the last maybe a year, sometimes at night, like calm sleep music, just so I can just like wind down.
Oh, totally. Have you heard Matthew McConaughey's sleep story? On the Calm app? Were
you talking about that, the Ozarks? Whenever we were down there, whenever we had the place
you know what? If you come to Vail,
I remember you mentioned it, but I never followed through with it.
I'm going to put that on your head. I'm going to put those, you'll love it.
Because he talks through it. His voice is like very like,
and he's got his daughter.
I have not, but
he talks about a little girl in it, and it totally reminded me of you. Final, like not goofball question. I'm a sentimental dork. When you come home from that extra long 24, 48 hour shift.
48, like this morning I just got off. It was brutal. Yeah.
And thank you for coming today.
Oh, no problem.
What's the best feeling to come home to sound sights? Like when are you just like,
well, I'm happiest whenever I can see the kiddo. That's always good.
Yeah.
And then now that I got my new dog, Victor, he's really happy. He wouldn't get off me this morning, so that was kind of cool. But it's just nice to kind of just get back to like normal routine and grounds and just like check out, because fire station life I mean, people think that we just grill ribs and just hang out in recliners all day. Like we're running a lot of calls. Like we really do work, you know, we're busy. Yeah. So it's nice just to get away and just whatever. If you want to go to the car wash, if you need to go to this, just do your normal shit. Just get back. So whenever I leave the fire station, I'm not typically thinking about the fire station. I'm checked out.
No, I know you're not.
You know, yeah.
And that's what I love about you.
Some people, and God bless them, I ain't mad, you know, whatever. If they're still, some people are still really tuned in and they're doing whatever. But whenever I leave in the morning, like I got other shit going on, I'm doing what I got to do. And then whenever I know I'm getting ready to go back the night before, like I get ready and, you know, get ready for work the next morning. But it's just nice just to have your normal routine and, you know, you get back to your family life, you know, your social life or whatever it is that you need to do and get done. And just enjoy that, you know, enjoy the time off. I'm actually off for the next 7 days, so I got a little break, so I'll be off. So I'm gonna enjoy. I don't think we'll be enjoying Thanksgiving like we normally would, because everything's so crazy. So they're not gonna do the plaza lights, and they're not gonna be having. I think we're only gonna do our immediate family. Are you guys doing that too, or are you guys still gonna? Right. So but no, are you guys going to do your immediate family only? Yeah, so normally we go to my Uncle Joe's, old school, still lives off St. John in Northeast. We pile in their house and play bingo, drink wine, and hang out. We'll hang out on the porch and watch a traffic on St. John because it's always good people watching. But he was like, nope, not this year. So we're going to be at my mom and dad's, and we'll just be hanging out with our immediate fam and doing that. So
well, I love it. So. I have to say, I give you a lot more credit than I did when I first met you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We came a long ways.
And honestly,
that's normally how it goes with most of the people. But
you bring a lot. Yeah, bring a lot of joy, a lot of fun to me and my husband's life. And
likewise.
I am very proud to call you my friend.
Cool.
So thank you for coming on the podcast
Thanks
today.
For having me.
Usually I do a shout out to if you want to follow you on Instagram, but I think you've got enough followers.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm private. Don't follow me.
He is a very private man. I love it. But other than that, just because I have to show my respect to the firefighter, hold on one second.
Oh, perfect. We normally like to. Oh, wait, she left it burning. Hang on. Candles out.
Blow it all out. I love it.
Nicely done.
I love it. Well, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. You know the business, the drill to the Seraphine podcast. And Sammy, thank you so much. Thank you. See you later.
Bye, guys. Thanks.